from Fox. I'm your host, Anna Marsick. We do have some breaking news to bring you as Karmelo Anthony has lost his bid for a new trial. This post coming from Fox News just moments ago.
Now, to help us walk through all of this, Mark, we're just getting this information into the newsroom, so I know that you've had an opportunity to review this and you're more familiar. Exactly what does this mean for us? Does this officially end the case, Mark, or is there more to learn?
No. So when somebody's sentenced to a sentence like that, which was 35 years, and almost a life sentence, there'll be plenty of time to relitigate this exact matter. Right away, they brought it up and said, new lawyers said, hey, there was this gentleman's agreement.
It was supposed to be a normal day at a high school track meet. Young athletes had gathered at Collin Stadium in Frisco, Texas, ready to compete. Coaches were watching. Teammates were cheering. Families were there to support their children. Then, underneath a team tent, a confrontation began. Within moments, a knife was pulled. 17-year-old Austin Metcalf was stabbed in the chest. The teenager who had arrived at the stadium to compete would never go home. Police soon focused on another student, Karmelo Anthony. But from the beginning, there was a major question. Was this murder? Or was Anthony acting in self-defense? That question would eventually lead to a murder trial, a 35-year prison sentence, a fight for a new trial, and now an appeal. This is the story of Karmelo Anthony and the death of Austin Metcalf. To continue this case, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more. The story begins April 2025 at Collin Stadium in Frisco, Texas. A regional high school track meet was taking place. Among the young athletes was 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, a student and athlete at Frisco Memorial High School. His twin brother, Hunter, was also connected to the Memorial track team. Another student at the event was Karmelo Anthony, who attended Frisco Centennial High School. But that changed during an encounter under a team tent. According to the prosecution's account, Anthony was in an area associated with the Memorial team. Austin confronted him about being there. Words were exchanged, and the situation quickly became tense. The defense later presented a different version. Anthony's attorneys argued that he was confronted and believed he was in danger. That difference became the central issue in the case. Because the question was not simply whether Anthony stabbed Austin. The important question was why he used a knife. Did he deliberately use deadly force against Austin? Or did he reasonably believe he needed to protect himself? Those questions would eventually be placed before a jury. During the confrontation, Anthony pulled out a knife and stabbed Austin in the chest. The incident happened quickly. A school track meet suddenly became a scene of panic. For his family, the loss was devastating. For investigators, the task was now to reconstruct exactly what had happened in those few moments. Police began interviewing witnesses and examining the circumstances surrounding the confrontation. They needed to determine how the argument began, what happened immediately before the stabbing, and whether Anthony's claim of self-defense could be supported. Austin's twin brother, Hunter, was among the people connected to the events. Other witnesses and physical evidence also became important as investigators built the case. The prosecution and defense would later interpret that evidence differently. Prosecutors argued that Anthony's actions amounted to murder. The defense argued that he reacted to a threat. Self-defense became the heart of the case. Texas law allows people to use force in certain circumstances to protect themselves. But deadly force is not automatically justified simply because two people are involved in an argument. The jury had to consider what happened before the stabbing, whether Anthony faced a serious threat, what he reasonably believed at the time, and whether deadly force was legally justified. The prosecution argued that the circumstances did not justify killing Austin. The defense argued that Anthony believed he needed to protect himself. The same few moments were being described in two completely different ways. The case attracted widespread public attention. People debated the evidence, the self-defense claim, and the actions of both teenagers. Social media also became filled with opinions and competing claims. But public discussion is not the same as evidence presented in court. Eventually, Anthony faced a murder trial in Collin County. The prosecution had to prove his guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense argued that the killing was justified as self-defense. Jurors heard the evidence and considered the competing accounts of the confrontation. Then they reached their decision. In June 2026, the jury found Karmelo Anthony guilty of murder. The jury had rejected his self-defense claim. Anthony was sentenced to 35 years in prison. For Austin's family, the conviction was a major moment in a case that had begun with the death of a 17-year-old at a school sporting event. But for Anthony and his attorneys, the case was not over. His legal team would soon return to court with a new argument. Anthony received a new legal team led by attorney Russell Wilson. They filed a motion asking for a new trial. The defense was not simply arguing that the jury had made the wrong decision. Instead, they raised concerns about how the original trial had been handled. One of the major issues involved character evidence. According to the defense, there had been an unwritten understanding, described as a gentleman's agreement, about how character evidence would be handled. The defense argued that this understanding affected Anthony's decision about whether to testify. That became important because testifying is a major decision for any criminal defendant. If Anthony testified, he could tell the jury his own version of events. But he would also face cross-examination by prosecutors. According to his new attorneys, the character evidence issue influenced that decision and prevented Anthony from fully presenting his self-defense case. The prosecution disagreed. Now a judge had to decide whether the defense had shown enough to justify a new trial. Another unusual part of the post-trial proceedings involved the original trial judge, Collin County District Judge John Roach Jr. Judge Roach had presided over Anthony's trial. But after the verdict, concerns arose over public comments he made about the case and a letter he released defending the jury's verdict. A visiting judge eventually recused Roach from handling the post-trial proceedings. The recusal did not overturn Anthony's conviction. It simply meant another judge would decide the request for a new trial. That judge was retired Kaufman County District Judge Michael Chitty. Judge Chitty held an evidentiary hearing on Anthony's request. The hearing lasted 2 days. Anthony's defense presented its arguments about the alleged character evidence agreement and his decision not to testify. The defense wanted the court to conclude that these circumstances had affected Anthony's ability to present his case fairly. The prosecution opposed the request and argued that the conviction should remain in place. After reviewing the arguments, the record, and the applicable law, Judge Chitty reached his decision. On August 22, 2026, Judge Michael Chitty denied Anthony's request for a new trial. The written ruling left the jury's murder conviction intact. It also left the 35-year sentence intact. For Anthony's defense team, it was another setback. But it was not necessarily the end of the legal battle. Anthony's attorneys have said they plan to continue the case through a direct appeal to the Texas Fifth Court of Appeals in Dallas. An appeal is different from a new trial. The appeals court does not simply bring in a new jury and start the case from the beginning. Instead, appellate judges examine legal issues raised about the proceedings below. Anthony's attorneys can argue that serious legal errors affected the trial or his rights. The appeals court will then review those arguments and the applicable law. There is no guarantee the appeal will succeed. The conviction could be upheld, or the court could grant relief if it finds a reversible legal error. For now, however, Anthony remains convicted of murder and sentenced to 35 years in prison. The case began with a high school track meet. Students came to compete, but a confrontation under a team tent ended with Austin Metcalf dead. Karmelo Anthony was charged with murder and maintained that he acted in self-defense. The jury heard the evidence and rejected that claim. In June 2026, Anthony was convicted and sentenced to 35 years. But his new legal team challenged the trial, arguing that an alleged agreement concerning character evidence affected his decision not to testify and his ability to present his defense. The request for a new trial led to a 2-day hearing before Judge Michael Chitty. On August 22, Judge Chitty denied the request. So, at this point, the conviction stands. The sentence stands. But the legal battle continues. Anthony's defense team plans to appeal to the Texas Fifth Court of Appeals. For Austin's family, however, the legal arguments cannot change the most painful fact of all: a 17-year-old went to a track meet and never came home. The case now moves into another chapter, where appellate judges will consider the legal arguments surrounding Anthony's conviction. Was the jury right to reject self-defense? Did Anthony receive a fair trial? And will the appeals court leave the conviction in place or order some form of relief? Those questions remain to be answered. What do you think about the Karmelo Anthony case? Do you believe the jury made the right decision when it rejected his self-defense claim? And what do you think about the defense's argument concerning character evidence and Anthony's decision not to testify? Remember, the case is still moving through the legal system, so the next major development could come from the appeals process. If you found this documentary informative, please like the video, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more true crime stories. Please share this video with someone who follows the case, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe this was murder, self-defense, or is there more to the case that still needs to be examined? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next documentary.